Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 78 of Sold with Updike Pugh.
I'm Jeff Updike.
I'm Weston Pugh, and this is the Shelter in Place edition.
Yes, it is.
In the first half, we're going to have a talk about how it's possible to actually buy or sell a home in this virtual market. And Jeff, what are we going to talk about in the second half?
In the second half, we've got Jeremy Radcliffe with SWBC Mortgage coming on, talking about the wild ride that the finance market's had over the last few weeks.
Lots to talk about in both of these segments, of these segments.
So, Weston, what are you doing to keep yourself busy and occupied during this?
So, as I'm a maker, a creator, so I've tried a bunch of different stuff. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. I actually tried to make butterscotch oatmeal cookies and took it upon myself to change the recipe because I felt like 3 cups of oatmeal was too much. And I'm just going to say Pinterest fail. So bear with me. I'll try that again.
Well, we got pictures of that.
Yeah, God, it was a mess. Couldn't even get them off the pan. I don't know what happened.
Wow.
I will say that lucky for Jason, that was not the case when I gave him his first COVID-19 haircut. Actually did a good job on that. If you want to see pictures of that, I posted it on my Facebook page, talking about how Truvy would be happy and that he only screamed Malin once. And then last but not least, I worked on a piece of art that I think turned out pretty good. It was a shelter in place text piece. And if you want to see that, that's also on my Instagram account, as is a lot of the other art that I do. So check it out, leave your comments, and love to hear what you think. And then Jeff, swinging back towards you, tell me about what you're doing over there on Robin Road.
Let's see. I would say probably the one thing that I've tried to focus on most is the art. The yard looks really good this year. Got, plants planted and pots moved around and plants split up and put in different places. And it's going to be one of the better years for the yard. Having the time to do it really does make a difference.
Good to hear.
I've also, I got a drone for Christmas, and it's one of the little Mavic Minis, and I've just really been trying to practice with that. I've learned a lot about it. The one challenge with it is we have so many restricted flight spaces here that I really have to go to the other side of White Rock Lake to get out of any of those zones, to be able to go as high as I want, and all of those things. So it's a lot of fun. Most people know that Adrian's been in the hospital with COVID-19 for 14 days and is certainly on the road to recovery. But it's been, I've been helping his mother kind of manage his health care along with another friend of ours, and that's a doctor, and that's taken quite a bit of my time also. And I do want to say thank you to everybody that has reached out to me and to Adrian and to his family, and just with positive words and happiness, and just the constant reminder that we're loved and appreciated. It really does mean a lot. I also wanted to say thank you to Michael Bosco with Safe Haven Pest Control, because Mike, one of the services that Michael offers is the sanitization of houses or properties like this. And so I reached out to Michael on Sunday evening through Facebook, and thinking that'd probably be one of the last places that he checked and he wouldn't be bothering him, and said, "Hey, could you go sanitize Adrian's house for me?" And he answered back right away, and he said, "What time do you want me there tomorrow?" And so it was, amazing. So I really do appreciate that, Michael. That was very, very appreciated.
Yep. And if you want more information about the process that I just mentioned, you can actually go to Safe Haven Pest Control on Facebook. And there they actually have images of them actually applying this process. It's a static electricity. And this is one of those processes that actually lasts longer than once the Clorox or Lysol has evaporated. So check it out. It's a really great thing, especially in today's market.
Yeah.
And one of the things we also want to hit is the market minute. And this will be a little bit longer than a minute, but bear with us. Last night, Anthony Jackson with Ebby Halliday, the vice president, sent out a bomb message to all of us talking about what's going on. And he brought us some really interesting things. He actually follows Lawrence Yu, the NAR chief economist, on Twitter. And it was Lawrence, or Dr. Yun, pointed out that the difference between the 2008 recession and the great pause that we're experiencing today when it comes to the housing market is that there is no subprime lending, meaning there is no no doc loans, interest only is not as popular, which is a really good indicator of the health of when people are purchasing. The other thing too that they notice is that builders are not flooding the market with spec homes and inventory, which means that there's not going to be this delay in the market picking back up because there's not a surplus that a resale homeowner would have to compete against. So one of the last things that he also brought up was that Ebby actually has 600 homes across North Texas that they provide property management to. And this economic indicator is really unique because he pulled the data and 98% of the people that pay rent have actually paid rent to Ebby, which is really good. And it says that there is still money in the pockets of the people of North Texas. And it'll be something that we will, an indicator that we'll want to watch moving forward to see how we recover or how long this actually lasts.
Yeah. And, you know, the market was really taking off very quickly already this year, right before this happened. And just a couple of real quick stats, like comparing the first quarter of our company, 2019, comparing 2019 to 2020, we were up by about 2% in the number of houses that were closed in the first quarter of this year. And then our closed volume from 2019 to versus 2020, we were up. Just in the first quarter, we closed almost $57 million more in real estate. So we were up 24% just in that first quarter. So, the market was definitely heading into a heavy spring market. And one of the other things I read just came out yesterday, I believe, was Steve Brown's column in the Dallas Morning News. And he references a study that's done by a company called Atom Industries. And what they look at is what markets will be least affected by the COVID-19 issue. Okay. And it takes the top 500 markets and looks at them. And there are 4 of those cities that are in the 470 range, which is the best range to be in. So we will be in those markets that are probably least affected by this. So
that's good. And we've kind of said that all along, that North Texas is so diverse in its market, schools and whatnot, that it makes for a really great location for home buying and real estate in general.
It really does. Really does. So that's kind of a long market minute, but I think it was well worth it.
Lots of good information. And one of the things now we're going to move into is how do you buy a house from sheltering in place? Because we know that life is still going on. People are having babies. People need to downsize. Economic indicators change the way that your money flows. And so this buying and selling of the house, how are we doing it right now is what we're getting a lot of questions like, can it still be done? And I think that, we've been lucky in the fact that we've had several houses go under contract and several buyers actually be able to find homes. And so we kind of wanted to share with everybody about what we're doing and what the Ebby corporations are doing and how this whole process is coming into place. And one of the first things that we have put into place is virtual home showing. And this is something that has really come on. It's always, the capability has always been there, but the importance of it is brand new. People are really using this as a primary tool in order to make the decision to buy one home versus another.
And, one of the ways that we kind of start off doing that is the first visit out into certain homes, that we don't put anybody in our car anymore. We can, what we like to do is we like to go look at the homes first, do a FaceTime chat, do a, Facebook Messenger chat, kind of walk you through the house and, just be able to give you that real tour of it. And that way, you're looking at it virtually. And, once we narrow it down to like 2 or 3 houses that you really do want to go visit, then we have even stronger protocols that are in place that allow that to be a safe showing. So you can still buy a house, and like I said, we put 2 under contract this week, so it's definitely possible.
possibility. One of the other things too that has become even more important, we've always used it and have for about 8 years, is electronic signatures. And this will allow you to sign and execute a buyer's rep. It'll allow you to also do and sign and execute a contract and all addendums as well.
And there's a new app that's being used that is really, it's been out for a couple of years, and it really hasn't been adopted very widely until now. And I think now, because we're kind of being pushed to use it, the concept behind it, it will be one of those things that I think lingers and lasts after this great pause is over.
And the app that Jeff's talking about is Zocum.
Yeah.
And it'll allow you to do both earnest and option fee now.
Yep. And so what happens is the buyer downloads this app on their phone. They electronically transmit the money to the title company for both amounts. And then the title company, everybody signs a document agreeing to this. And then the title company holds the earnest money and they hold the option fee. And if the buyer terminates within the option period, the money is released to the seller, and the earnest money goes back to the buyer. But as long as that buyer goes to the closing for the transaction, they just get a credit for all of it right there. So it's a great product.
Yep. And logistically, what happens next during a contract once it's been executed electronically is that we move into the option period. And the option period is when you're going to have an inspection, plumbers, HVAC, you'll have an engineer if need be. And what we've been able to work with the subs and contractors that we use is that now they actually are doing video as well while they're in the inspection. So the homeowner actually doesn't have to show up, and many times they don't want the buyer to show up, and it allows them to walk you through as if you were there, point out items of concern that they found, and then also give the buyer the option at a later time, because no one's going to come up with all the questions they have in one setting. But again, to be able to come back for another video Q&A with them to kind of make sure that they understand the full picture of what the health of that house is.
Yeah. And so, once we're through the option period or have repairs negotiated or do whatever due diligence needs done, heading toward closing, that has really changed, hasn't it?
Dramatically.
So, and closings have really changed quite a bit too.
Yes, they have. So, you're able to do a lot of your docs now for the lender in a different manner.
Yeah, like they probably about 99% of the lender docs now can be done electronically. And the couple that are left over that need to be actually have wet signatures on, the title companies that we've been working with have they send everything to the buyer or the seller that needs to have the wet signatures on it. The buyer or seller print it off, they sign it, they bring it to the title company, they hand the documents to the closer. The closer shoots a picture of their ID, and then the closer goes inside to actually notarize. So the communicate or the actual coming in contact with people is minimized in that process, where it used to be 6 or 8 of us sitting around in a conference room. So really quite a change.
It has been quite a change. And like Jeff was saying, at this point buyers aren't even having to get out of their car, that the actual escrow agent actually comes to the car and is able to take the pictures from there and move back inside, and then everything is done. And then from there, we're usually waiting for funds to transfer, and wiring funds is one of the things that we always caution people about doing, double checking, making sure they're not being phished. It has become one of those things that has become more of an essence versus bringing in the check that so many times you go to the bank and get. So we're seeing that actually calm down. And the other thing is, how do we get keys to people? That's another good question.
A lot of times what we've been doing is we go over and get them out of the key box and we leave them under a mat or something like that. And, we sanitize them before we leave them under there, just so when somebody shows up, they can feel comfortable picking the keys up and, having it be their place and move in.
Yep. Showings are a little bit different now.
Yeah.
For sure.
Masks, hand sanitizer, gloves. There's a requirement that realtors take their temperature before they leave their house, and anything that is over a 99.6 you have to do to not go show property. So it's a some real specific guidelines.
And also to actually see a property, there's also an addendum that you need to sign now that talks about where you have and where you haven't been, if you have or haven't been exposed to someone that had it. This is then signed by the buyer. And I believe that what we do is send it over to the seller just so that they know that coming into the house that this is as best as they know, someone who hasn't experienced or in front of that. So we can still get out there and do it. It is a never ending change in the real estate market.
Yeah. And, we have several people that we are already lining up to bring their house back on the market when this is over. I don't know, is it 30 days? Is it 60 days? But there are houses that will be coming on the market. If you're thinking about selling yours, let's go ahead and talk, because there are things that you can be doing now that, we don't have to come to your house, but we can, certainly tour your home with you and help you decide and find those things that we think need to have attention before you actually are ready to bring it on.
Because I think that one of the things that we saw in 2008, when that Great Depression was over, you coined it the snapback. That snapback happened so quickly that we're going to have a shorter window, and it is going to be pretty heavy. And because of that, Jeff said, call us so that we can start formulating the game plan, so that we can start looking in the calendar and making forecasts. We'd love to help and get that started.
Absolutely. So anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think if you guys will just stay tuned, we're going to cut for a short commercial break, and we'll be right back with Jeremy Radcliffe with SWBC.
There are lots of ways to keep up with us. Visit and like our Facebook page to watch us live and get updates about future show topics. Also, visit our Instagram page where you can see the latest homes that we have for sale. You can also check out our website at updikepugh.com, where you can create customized searches of active and sold homes that you find of interest. If you're interested in how much your home is worth, visit homeprice.fyi and you can get a price instantly. Just enter your address and a couple of pieces of information about your home, and we will email you a price. Last of all, you can reach out to us by phone or text at 214-377-2223.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 78 of Sold Updike Pugh, the Shelter in Place series. Jeff, what do we got going on to the second half?
Well, the second half of our show today, we've got Jeremy Radcliffe with SWBC Mortgage on with us. And, there's been so many changes in the lending side of it. We thought, let's just hear from Jeremy. So, Jeremy, welcome back.
Thanks, guys. Great to be with you.
How are you handling the shelter in place?
There's been some really great things that come out of it. Gotten a lot of walks with my kids. I'm working from home now, and my kids are in my office quite frequently. I'm actually splitting office playroom is really what it is. So we're figuring it out, but it's been great, and I'm just grateful that we're healthy. A lot of our friends and family are still healthy, so we've got a lot to be grateful for.
Hey, Jeremy, what subject are you the homeschool teacher of today?
So let's see. I've been doing a lot of reading. So we're working on a lot of reading. I'm kind of impressed. Like, these kids are, I don't remember reading as well as my daughter does right now at her age. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, but it's been a lot of fun. I mean, Natalie and I are figuring it out, and every night we're like, well, we could probably do this a little bit better.
Yeah, right. Well, we made it through another one.
The funny thing, though, the grapefruit of it is our dog, who's a little overweight. She's gotten a lot of exercise. So we do walk around the block quite a bit. So.
Funny. Well, Jeremy, tell us what's going on in the lending world. I mean, the Fed lowered the interest rate again.
Yes.
Craziness. Yeah,
so we were just talking about a little bit earlier. There's ton of changes, and as soon as something happens, it seems like something else happens right on top of it. Right now, I'd say you're almost kind of dealing with two different worlds in terms of the lending side. Fed dropped rates, everything hit with COVID-19. Interest rates are still down. It's a heavy refinance market right now. A lot of clients are taking advantage of lower rates. One of the interesting things that has happened, though, is you start seeing It's been a really unfortunate thing for clients is they're getting, some of them maybe being furloughed from work, even having lost jobs, and it's affected people's ability to qualify with financing. And so I've heard of and spoken with several clients who were looking at options and said, hey, we're gonna have to put things on the back burner for right now. As soon as, my understanding, as soon as that stuff picks up and they're back on, we can use that income right away. We just have to get some sort of verification that they're back on. Interest rates on the conforming side, so that's that 5, 10, 400 Fannie, Freddie. Those rates are still really low, historically low.
Wow.
Yeah.
30-year is, I mean, it's just kind of amazing. So we're seeing people really take advantage of those rates on purchase business as well as on refinance. The side story to that, though, is if you look at what's called the jumbo market. So that's anything where the first lien is over that 5, 10, 400. There seems to be quite a bit of a delta between rates on the conventional and what's happening on the jumbo side. And you may have heard about it in the news, but some of the big jumbo, so large banks, most mortgage banks aren't going to hold a jumbo loan. They're going to sell that off to an investor. And so what's happening is a lot of those, I'm getting feedback a little bit on my side. That money's really starting to dry up in a sense. There's still options for jumbo mortgages, but the rates aren't maybe as attractive as what they would be on a conventional. I've even considered maybe putting people on a first and a second lien as opposed to using jumbo financing. It winds up being a little bit cheaper in the long run. The other thing, though, is when we talk about there's a group of products, what we call a non-QM mortgage or non-qualified mortgage, and those are a bit of nuanced products. So niche products where maybe you're doing a higher loan amount at a higher loan to value. So you're in that jumbo space, but you got a higher loan to value. A lot of that, those lenders have run to the sidelines and they basically said, we're not lending in this environment right now. So some of the kind of unique products that allowed us, maybe people who had unique income qualifications, a lot of that stuff has started to dry up a little bit. I'm hoping it comes back when things settle down, but I think there's just too much uncertainty for some of those lenders. And at that higher loan amount, it does represent a really large risk.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, Jeremy, are the, because I just got a text message from one of our clients, are the appraisers changing any of their practices when it comes to doing the appraisal now?
So I'm so glad you mentioned that, because there's some changes that are coming through the automated underwriting systems. That's the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. They have the AUS. It's basically allowing in lots of situations, they're really pushing for different types of appraisals. So drive-by appraisals, where maybe an appraiser doesn't have to go into the property. A lot of clients are getting what we call property inspection waivers, where you don't even need to get an appraisal depending on loan to value. So that's, I think, is an effort for what Fannie and Freddie were trying to do, was to protect clients and appraisers from having to enter into properties. Another thing that is coming up, as a matter of fact, this weekend, they're making a change on the AUS, and that's that lenders are going to now be required to do more last minute documentation of income because of people being furloughed and requiring more recent pay stubs, things like that. So clients just need to be prepared that when they go to close, their lender's going to ask them to verify and to attest that they still have a job and that their income hasn't changed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And we're seeing title companies change a little bit, and that docs are a lot easier to sign these days.
Yeah, and I just heard, I was on a national call last week, and I haven't seen it come across yet, but I think Fannie Freddie is moving in the direction of trying to allow for some sort of third-party power of attorney, which would be a really big win, where title companies could actually sign with the power of attorney on behalf of clients for the purpose of not having to be, clients don't have to be at closing or something like that. We've seen a lot of curbside closings where, maybe a mobile notary would show up at someone's home and then they just sign the documents out on the street, or they can see them through the window. Everyone's getting really creative, and I think the effort is to try to keep everybody safe.
Yeah.
So if you look in your crystal ball, Jeremy, moving forward, what habits that you see that we've developed now in closing do you think are going to carry over and become the new norm in the future?
Yeah, I think this. I was talking with a friend of mine who's a title agent. We really hope that this kind of pushes the industry more towards like an e-closing, a hybrid e-closing or something like that, to where there's minimal documents that need to be signed, mortgage, deed of trust, something like that. But majority of the documents, that's my hope. That I can't see 100%. I think the industry is trying to move in that direction. There's some companies that have done it. We've tested some, and it didn't work out exactly like we had hoped. But I'm hopeful that this is gonna be a big impetus towards that direction.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I think appraisals too. I think Fannie Freddie's been collecting so much data on these appraisals for the last 10 years that it's allowing them in a lot of cases to where it makes sense that maybe you don't need an appraisal. If the property's selling and there's a lot of data points that would show it absolutely supports what's going on, then
wow.
Yeah, it's interesting that everybody has an automated valuation module now, and so there's it's always been a bit confusing to me that how the appraisal is so finite, because if the house appraises for $1,000 less than the contract sales price, everybody's up in arms and you've got to reduce the price, and ultimately most of the time you do. But if the appraisal comes in $1,000 over the contract sales price, nobody's running around saying, we got to raise the price.
An extra benefit, right? It is, and that's the interesting thing. When you start moving more towards that artificial intelligence on appraisals and things like that, you take away. What I explain to clients is appraisers providing you an opinion of value. It's not this exact, apples to apples, and sometimes I make judgment calls on things. And it really depends on what the market's doing. Even in a few months, it can make a difference. So I think I like the move of the automated underwriting systems, kind of giving more direction towards that. Another thing too is that we're seeing there's just a big push towards what we call day one certainty, things like income, assets, where there's technology out there now where we can verify income electronically or assets electronically and not have to get additional documentation from clients. So that's
what did you call that again?
It's called day one certainty. I can send you guys some additional information on that. But basically what it does is it protects lenders and says, hey, if you've documented accordingly, well, you're protected from a warrant standpoint. So
interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. Made a little note of that. So very cool.
Outside of that, I think we're just trying to. I'm really hopeful. I'm hopeful that when people get out, I know we've been cooped up. All of our friends and family have been cooped up. We've been doing a lot of Zoom calls, with family and friends. I think people are just going to get out and celebrate, and the economy I'm hoping is going to quickly turn around. And it's a beautiful time of year. So I'm hoping people are going to get out and start buying again. Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time to be on with us today, and
absolutely, always
got such great information, and you treat our clients so well, and we want to wish you and your family the best, and just keep up the good work, and
you guys stay safe too. And go get them. This is a great time of year for everybody. So
yes, it is. And if you want to reach out to Jeremy, we have his contact information up on the screen now, and again, Jeremy, thank you very much.
Always appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Well, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in today for another episode of Sold with Updike Pugh. We hope that you like, share, and subscribe to these and others. We also started a new series called In the Streets, and the newest neighborhood that we're about to push out is going to be Merriman Park. And we hope that you enjoy those, and we'll share those as well.
That's right.
Jeff, anything else?
That is it. Thanks for joining us today.
Yep.
And remember, we want to be your realtors for life.